You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 85. I was actually on and on whether to record this week. I was thinking about maybe sharing some of the episodes that I've been a guest on, and I was like, no, I feel like there's some lessons here that I want to share. And today's theme, should I say, that's come to the surface for me is are you running from your old software or are you constantly updating it? Because my iPhone, as most people's do, came up last night, the notification that it was going to update the software. And even this morning, it told me the software had been updated. And it got me thinking about our minds and the program that we're currently running on. And I thought, I wonder how many of us, and I did have a conversation today with someone else that really brought this to light. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. But it really got me to think that our whole lives, as I always say, are a real, I guess, data point of, these old codes that we've received throughout our whole life that we've been just copy and pasting continuously over and over again. And I think that so many people are not aware of the part they play in their own life. And I always get told by people that either interview me or, that meet me in a I guess, professional sense, that I'm really self-aware. Like that's been something that I've always been told. And I think for me, the moment that I went through that real spiritual awakening moment where everything was difficult, the pandemic moment, that for me there showed me the part that I'd played in my life. Now that was my Saturn return as well. And if you know about Saturn return, it's kind of where your Saturn in the sky meets the point of where it was when you were born, per se, and then you kind of have to unlearn the lessons that you've kind of been doing, basically. And so at that point there, I was really then diving inwards to figure out for myself, like, why am I the way I am? What have I done in my life to perpetuate some of the cycles that I've been living in? Because what I know for sure is that it isn't just this stuff that happens to us. We play a role in that as well. And I think that's really where the deepening of self-awareness really shone. But I would say as a performer, being self-aware to an extent is important in terms of your physicality, your movement, your adaptability. All of those things play a part there. But what I would say is I was always dancing in self-criticism versus self-awareness. And I talk about that quite a lot, if you've been listening, you'll know. But yeah, I just kind of I feel like there's always been an essence of me trying to figure out where I sit in the dynamic of what's playing out in my life, right? And when I was interviewed yesterday, I said to the ladies that was interviewing me, sometimes it feels hard because no one else has done it before. And even in your life right now, if you're listening to this and you're going for a hard patch, it could be that, no one in your family has done what you're doing now. It could be that, maybe someone in your family has done it, but this is the first time you're doing it, right? And with that, this links back to this programming because we always revert to what we know. So when something feels uncomfortable or difficult, we kind of revert back to the old pattern that worked for us previously, but we're a different version of ourselves now. And that's a really important part to say because a lot of people believe that's what resilience is, right? It's the knowing that you can get through it because you've got through it before, which is right to some extent. But a deeper layer of that is taking on board where you're at right now. Because, you could say that throughout your whole life you were bullied as a teenager, and now you're a 30, 40 something year old woman and you're getting bullied again. You're not going to react the way you did when you were, a teenager. Well, at least that's what you don't want to do, right? But then you might find naturally, and this is where my work comes in, that you do revert to being that teenager again. And then you feel lost and confused and you don't know how to handle the situation. You feel victimized. There's a whole spiral that happens here. Whereas if you were able to kind of upgrade your software, for example, and again, that's through like kind of doing this work that I'm talking about, it's like sitting in that position of being like, right, I am now, let's say 35 years old, and what have I achieved in my life? This, and this. What are my strengths? This, and this. What are my weaknesses? This, and this. Is this person coming for my strength or my weakness? Because if that person is coming for your strength and saying you're, not very good at your job or whatever, when you know that you are, you can literally say to them, stop projecting your stuff onto me. I'm very good at my job. That's the situation handled, right? When you're not, when they're coming for your weakness, I don't want to say when you're not good at your job, that's not what I'm trying to say. When they're coming for your weakness, that's where accountability has to play a part, right? You have to be able to say, I'm aware that this part isn't my strong suit, but the way you are handling this with me is very patronizing, and I'm going to say it feels like bullying. Because when you call a spade, the other person would literally, feel victimized or whatever. I don't know what the right word is, not victimized. Well, yeah, it's they're being held accountable. And if that triggers the victim mentality within them, then that's a them issue. It's not a you issue. But a lot of people are scared to call things as they are because they don't want to rock the boat. And actually that's something I see all the time, especially with women, is that no one wants to say anything to rock the boat because they're worried about the repercussions, but you're already living in the repercussion of not saying anything and you're miserable. So the alternative for you to not be miserable is to actually out the situation that you're in and say it how it is and clear the air, or at least rock the boat so something changes. And it might be that the change that needs to happen isn't what's comfortable for you, and that's why you are resisting it so much, because actually you really hate that job. You've been moaning about it for years, and now you're getting bullied by someone in the office or something like that. You are knowing now that you have to leave and you don't want to because you're scared of what's on the other side. You know, that's a prime example of how we stay stuck. We're in our old programming. Maybe we're feeling like a victim. We're like, oh, no one likes me in my job. I'm being picked on. Like this is adopting that victim mentality. You have a choice. Always, you have a choice. If you want to say, which I get told all of the time by women that I speak to, is, oh, I can't leave this job because I need the money for the things that I pay out for. Girl, your job is not the only job in the world that pays you that money. You can, in fact, get paid a lot more money and probably do less hours somewhere else. But you will keep yourself stuck and trapped in that old pattern and in that old mindset because you don't want to upgrade your software. And the thing is, as well, which makes this all so sweet, is that you are already upgrading your software, because the fact that you're feeling this need to change or this resistance or something that feels like it's uncomfortable is a sign that you are already upgrading. So what you are doing is actually stopping your own success because you're capping yourself at that point and saying, oh, I can't have more, you know? And that isn't your fault, by the way. A lot of us have been shown that. Look at the generations of women that stayed at home and they just looked after the kids, they did the housework, and they didn't strive for any more than that because that was the role that women played. However, over time, we've now started to see the rise of mumpreneurs, right? These mums that are now, they're doing the school run, they're doing the dinners, they're looking after the household, but they're also doing side hustles. And these mumpreneurs are now making millions of pounds and still being a mum at home, So they're an I don't even want to say anomalies in this situation. There are other ways of doing things, but we get so capped in our own experience of what's happened to us, which is obviously the main one, but also, you're leading by example or watching from example. So it's all interconnected. This like byproducts of our mind not thinking it's possible, and then our mind believes it's not possible because we haven't seen it's possible. So then you can feed in that loop over and over again, or like, I want to do this, oh, but I haven't done that before, and I haven't seen anyone else do that before, or the people that you have seen do it before are, viral on social media and you don't know them personally. But what I know for sure is all of those people on social media, they do have DMs. And if you are curious, drop that person a DM. Yeah, they may not answer you, but if you go through the comment section, I'm pretty sure there'll be people in there asking those questions as well, as a side note, because we are in this space of this quest for more for ourselves. And I feel like every single woman that I speak to wants more for themselves. And the only thing stopping them from receiving more for themselves is who? It's them. It's you, right? Like it's this whole thing about everything being outside of ourselves. And that narrative is shifting. It really is shifting. But again, to back this up, is like whatever you believe is true is true. So if you believe it's hard to receive or have something, it will always be hard. If you believe that only people that come from money will ever have money, then you will never have money, right? So it's all about the shift that it gets to be. Now, what I'm not saying, which is what you probably see online all the time, is like going from believing that it's not possible to all of a sudden overnight being like, everything's possible for me, it's amazing, I get to have everything. That's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is if every day you can start to be conscious of it gets better every day. So, yeah, you might go from right now where you're at and you're feeling really stuck or trapped in a situation. But actually, if you start to say tomorrow will be better, or it gets to be better, I deserve better, then, eventually you're going to start to feel better. And then when you get to that point where maybe like a week or a couple of months' time where you're like, actually, things do feel better, it's like, I deserve more, and then you start to deserve more, and then more starts to come in. You're like, ah, okay. Then maybe the saying is the better it gets, the better it gets. And then it's like, wow, things are really starting to shift now. I can see it and feel it. And then when you're in that space, it's like, I deserve to make X amount of money, or I deserve to receive nice things. Like these are the tiny increments that we can start to believe. And don't get me wrong, your old programming will want to rise up. And this is that saying about the wolves that I always talk about, the two wolves in your mind. Like one is the positive, the newness, the exciting mentality, and the other one is the negative beliefs, the old mindset. And because that wolf has been fed so much, it will eat the other wolf if you're not feeding it, right? So this is the thing, like sometimes when you're having a day that you feel a bit wobbly, that negative wolf is going to rise up and try and take the other wolf down, right? And this is where you have to be discerning and tuned into yourself. Like when you notice your thought pattern, like maybe the day that you feel like, oh, this feels like a bit of a crap day, or I feel really uncomfortable today, that is the sign that your negative wolf is leading you. So, what can you do in that situation that's going to put you back in a positive mindset? And there's a really beautiful practice that a psychologist was talking about on it on socials, and I can't remember who it was now. If I figure out who it is, I'll put it in the show notes. But basically saying to have a bank of positive thoughts always available to you. Now, this bank of positive thoughts can literally be experiences that you've had that have bring you joy. It could be the holiday that you had with your family. It could be the moment when your toddler told you they loved you. It could be when you got that raise at work, and actually the raise at work wasn't the exciting bit, but it was when you came home and your partner had made you a lovely dinner to celebrate. Like it could be anything. Like it could be times with your friends where you were laughing and crying at the same time because it was so funny. Like these little banks of memories that you can tap into when you are feeling sad or down, and be like, oh wow. Like, for me, I talk about all the time about how healing isn't a line or linear, it goes round in spirals. And so, because obviously the weight of what I've been through in my life is heavier than the newness of, everything I am now, sometimes I get pulled back and it's only temporary, but still it's a reminder that, I'm human and these things have happened in my life because I don't bypass that experience, right? And sometimes I just have to flick through my screenshots of messages that I've received from clients or people that have connected with me over time. And I'm like, this is why I do what I do. This is why at times it feels hard because, I have gone through a lot, but equally the impact I've made as a result of that out trumps it by far. But also, another important thing to say on all of this is that it's okay to feel sad, you know? Like it really is okay to feel sad. And in fact, it's really normal and human to feel sad every now and again. But when you are feeling sad for weeks on end, months on end, that's when it's a sign that, okay, something needs to shift. And it's about this kind of like, the memory bank thing is such a quick thing you can tap into. But if it's feeling like that for a longer amount of time, it is writing it down, like writing down, why am I feeling like this, or dive into the memory that's there. Because a lot of the time, Dr. Martha Beck talks about this quite a lot about sitting down with that part of you that feels anxious or overwhelmed, and tapping into what was the memory there, what's coming up right now. And I've done a lot of this recently as well for myself to think about, you know, um, for me, I now know going back doing this practice that when I when my dad passed away from alcoholism, and obviously I'd had all of those other members of my family die back to back, I decided that the boyfriend I had at the time, he disappeared a little bit and he yeah, he didn't come to the funeral and like all of the things. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sit well with me. So at that point, I kind of made a decision there that I was going to stop distracting myself from anything other than succeeding in life. Now, can you see where there's a bit of a toxic shift here? Because I went from, having a boyfriend, um, doing all my dance stuff still, being with my family and all the things, even though obviously things were volatile and heavy and hard at the same time. But then the moment that my dad died, I just thought he was 45 years old. He didn't get to achieve anything he wanted to do. And along with that, obviously, I had members of my family that were like 21 that passed away. And I was just thinking about how um, my nan was 56, and I thought about how these people didn't get to live their life fully. So I guess in a way, it was like a deeper rooted, soulful reason why I wanted to achieve in my life was because the people that I love didn't get to do that. So I wanted to do it for them. But you can't live for anyone other than yourself. And I think that I took it too literally. I really forced that narrative to a point where I didn't allow anything else in other than that. And I know so many people could sit in here right now and tell me their version of that for themselves. The reason why we push so hard or work so hard or want more for ourselves or for others is this one driving thing. And that point came to me very clearly over these last few days, and I was like, yeah, so many of us are doing that right now. There's a reason we're stopping ourselves from having something. And I had to really sit down with that version of myself and say, you can have it all, you can. And I think society makes us believe that, especially back then, like this is like what, 15 years ago, maybe even longer than that. Yeah, no, it was 15 years ago. Yeah, 15 years ago. So I sat down with myself, was like, right, that's it. No distractions. We're going to achieve. We're going to win. We're going to do what it takes. And even in that, because things had always been hard for me, I was cut and pasting that hard reality and then obviously not allowing anyone else to support me in the meantime. So this toxic pattern then unravels throughout my whole life. And yeah, I feel like now, 15 years on, I'm living in a completely different space in terms of how I feel about myself, in terms of what I'm ready to receive, in terms of what I'm building with my business. But there was still something that I felt like was maybe blocking me as to why I wasn't receiving more, when it comes to adding a relationship into my life. And I had to think about what was that point? What was that moment? And then, yeah. I was like, that's the moment it was. So then, now the armor is off. I get to go back to that version of myself and just say to her, you know, don't try so hard. It's okay, But equally, I wouldn't change a thing because I needed to go through all of those things to now have all of this to teach. And that's why it's so important that we are able to revisit these patterns and this programming because it serves its purpose as evidence, as recaps, as whatever it needs to be. But the important thing is we take that lesson that we learn and we use it in an upgraded way to create more for ourselves because you deserve a life of more. You deserve a life of this and I think that the patriarchal way that we've been taught is that sacrifice everything, or if you want success, you got to be up at 5 a.m. and go to bed at 1 in the morning and just keep pushing, and that's not the reality. And that looks different for all of us, right? It could be that you were told that if you wanted to have kids and a family and settle down, that you couldn't have the career too. It could be that you were told only men get paid this amount of money. Whatever the narrative was for you in your life, it's about looking at that and looking at your life and saying, when was the point that I told myself that was true? Because that's all it is, right? Your subconscious mind has taken on board something that you believe to be true and then went with it. Yeah. So that's a really important thing. And I'm seeing it all the time now. I had a conversation today with a lady that was told by one of her mentors that she couldn't do something or it wouldn't work or whatever. And I said to her, do you think you can do it? And she was like, yeah, but well, I just, I know, I mean, I really trust this person. And they said, oh, I'll be honest with you. I've been told my whole life I won't be able to do this. I won't be able to do that. I won't be able to make it. I won't achieve this. I won't do that. And I did it anyway. And I'm saying all of this to say that, if you always believed what other people said or took on board what always went wrong, or, you know, believed what you saw in terms of things not working out, like and all of these narratives, if you took all of that on board your whole life, you wouldn't move forward. You'd be stuck with a Nokia 3310. Like literally your mindset would be a Nokia 3310. And we see that now, right? I'm sure some of you somewhere have got an old relative that is still stuck in the past, like still doesn't want to mingle, I don't know, with people of color, or doesn't want to eat food that's not British, for example, like as a narrative of a way of you seeing how that gets people nowhere. Like you can't go out for a meal with your granddad because you don't want to eat anything other than fish and chips. Do you know what I mean? It's like and I'm just giving that as an example of how this looks like in a physical manifestation, instead of like the mental one that you're living in all of the time. Like when you go to do something scary, it should feel scary, something big, something out of your ordinary. And I want you to picture that old relative of yours eating fish and chips. You love to go out and explore and do nice things. You want to travel, you want to see the world, you want to I don't know, maybe your type of partner is the same sex as you or different culture, like, and then I want you to picture that old relative in your head eating that fish and chips, saying to you, oh no, you can't do that. Would you let that stop you? No, you wouldn't, right? You would be like, no, actually, it's my life. I'm going to live it. Yours is nearly finished now. Enjoy your fish and chips while you can. Like this is the mentality here. It's like, you have to think of that old programming in your mind as that old person there, but also other people's perception of what is true and what is real is theirs. And as a mentor, for me, there's this dance that you have to do, as in, and I've always said this, is that I don't impose my beliefs onto my mentees. I present them with openings to find it for them, and I share my experience and my wisdom. And I'm like, you try this, see if it works. Does this feel good? If it doesn't, we'll try something else. Like for me, that's the way I like to do things. I don't believe I know all the answers, but I believe I have the ways of finding the answers. I think that's what my gift is. And I think that it's so easy to take someone that you respect, especially even a parent or a grandparent, for example, and take their word as true. It's so easy to do that, right? And especially a mentor or a coach, you've invested money into them, so you want to do it their way. They don't always have the answer. They have the answer for them, not always for you. And this is where you building up your upgrades in yourself internally is going to serve as a purpose, because I would much rather my clients say to me, that doesn't feel right to me, or that's no, I don't think that's true. And I'm like, okay, cool, then what's true for you? And we figure it out, than them saying nothing and just believing everything I say. I'm not building a cult, guys. I'm building self-awareness and resilience for you in your body. And actually, I wouldn't even use the word resilience, but I think that's a byproduct of work that I do. And it's about, yeah, you finding the tools that work for you. And I think that's what's so important with life, is that you are always going to be met with situations that are going to trigger the older mindset, the limiting beliefs, the negative beliefs, the old stories in your mind. You're always going to do that. But if you are dedicated to upgrading your software all of the time, that comes with knowing who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, the threats and the opportunities that come from knowing yourself and what you're good at and all the things, which I repeated because that's important. That is how you stay upgraded in your software. And also, the big part of this is that if you want something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. So it doesn't mean that you have to do the scary thing that's out of your comfort zone. And I have to challenge myself with that all of the time, and actually I haven't really had a choice in a lot of the times in my life, but now in my business, it's like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but if I want to help more women and reach women on a larger scale, it means I have to put myself out there and say, hello, I do this thing, and other people might see my promotion of myself, my services, as ego. They might be like, oh, she's so full of herself, rah, rah, rah. But I don't care what that person thinks. What I care about is the person that's scrolling through social media, feeling empty, lost, and lonely, looking for someone to support them, and they find me because I'm telling them that's what I do. How would they find me if I didn't tell anyone? You know? And I'm saying this to you because I feel like some of you, and I know some of the listeners, some of you are stopping yourself from succeeding, from being more, from having more because of what other people's perceptions are of you are, and also what your perception of you is. You're that old limited one, that one that you haven't done. So if you are listening to this right now and you're feeling like I'm stopping my own growth, get out a pen and paper and do a SWOT analysis. Literally grid the paper into quarters: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The opportunities are, from looking at my strengths, what can I achieve here? Okay, I'm really good at connecting people. Am I going to networking events? Write that down. Opportunity, networking events. Maybe it's that you are someone that joins people together in terms of referrals. Maybe you could set up a referral system somewhere. Maybe you're really good with kids and you don't want to be a nanny, but actually maybe you could start to run kids play dates or something, like there's all of these little things that you can look at in your life that build you up to who you are, because every single one of you has a strength. It could be that you're funny, you're creative, it could be that you're really organized, it could be that you're a good listener. I'm just thinking of all these things here. Now, when we look at weaknesses, it's like, for me, I bloody hate admin. I hate it, but I've had to be good at it to run a business. But guess what? I now hired a VA so that she can do that for me. That was me looking at my threats. What are the my weaknesses? What are the threats here? Maybe when I get too busy and I can't do everything all on my own, we hire that out. That's me being aware of every part of myself. So I am being accountable for the upgrades that I have in my system. Because if I didn't do that, if I didn't jump to the next level, the universe isn't going to give me more. It's going to keep recycling the same stuff over and over again. And it might be nice, it might be okay, like, yeah, like people know who I am, that's really nice. But actually, you want to be able, if I want to be able to help so many more people. I need to be in the rooms where the people that need me are. And that only happens when I can then not focus on all the admin stuff and I can focus on the delivery, you know? And also, a really lovely thing for you to do as well is to get really clear on your values. Like what do you value in life? Is it friends and family? Is it creating sustainability in your life financially? Is it kindness, honesty, integrity? Like look at those little things in your life, and if you're struggling with that, take a day to sit with it, or grab a cup of tea and just sit down with it and just ask yourself. And you could even write that on the other piece of paper. If you've got one side your strengths and weaknesses and the other side your values, that there is your like manifesto to life. Like that's who you are in a piece of paper that you can come back to over and over again, and it will evolve and change as you do, right? But your values will probably stay the same, unless obviously at this moment in time you don't really want to have a family. But um maybe in a year's time you do, like that will change. But in terms of like integrity, that will always be there. Like I always do everything to the best of my ability, and I try my best to be, I don't even want to say try my best, I do tell everything as it is, so people know when they see me, what they see is what they get. I'm never a different version of myself to the girls in the schools, the women that I teach, to the stages when I'm speaking. I don't change who I am. This is who I am, and that's something I'm really proud of. But it's come from doing these deep dives to figure out what is my old programming and how is that showing up in my everyday life, so I can then take the parts that are ready to upgrade and step into that scary, vulnerable space, that unpredictable space, but knowing what I do know from the lessons that I've learned previously and from the strengths that I have in this version of me, right? Because that's really just the secret there. There's no other formula to that. That literally is it. You get an upgrade come through. Are you going to use it or are you not? And the thing is right now is there's so many planetary shifts, and even if you're listening to time, we've got Uranus is going to be conjunct with the full moon in Leo this week. So that's all about, if you're not getting out of your own way, Uranus is going to do it for you, and it's not going to be fun. So it's like, you clinging on to this job that with people that are bullying you or treating you like crap. If you are not making the move to move yourself, the universe will do that for you. And that might not be the best way for it. It might mean that, you lose your job and then you've got no financial backing. Now, I'm not manifesting that for you, but what I'm saying is, if you can start looking for something else now, and or saying to the boss or the company, like, this is happening and I'm not okay with it, and you want to stay, then you are doing that aligned action that matches up with the version of you that you want to be. This even goes for, if you want a raise at work, go and ask for it. No one's gonna give you that off their own back if they don't know that you want that. There's so many things here, and this is where the masculine and the feminine energy need to be friends, because actually, if you're feeling like, yeah, I want more for myself, sit with it, ask yourself, what does more look like? What does it feel like? That's the feminine. And then the aligned action, that's the masculine. That's saying, okay, right now in my life, for me to feel the best I possibly can, that's going to every day lead me to where I want to be more, I need to do this thing. Doing that thing is the masculine. That's the divine masculine. That's what you need to be doing. It's about going through another route. And I've always said this, is that in life, very rare that you can walk through the front door of your dreams and aspirations. You can't just knock on the door and be let in, right? That's just not how it works a lot of the time. You've got to find another way in. Can you go around the side? Do you know the doorman to let you in? Or maybe some of the buildings of your dreams and manifestations are already open, because actually it's just a segue to the next thing. And it's a maze. Life is a maze. It's going to be keep winding and unraveling, and it's up to you to kind of navigate that in the best way possible. But you might see that empty room and think, do you know what, I'm just going to live here, I'm just going to stay here, and that's okay. But how happy and fulfilled would you feel if you just stayed in that one space, knowing that there's a whole lifetime of opportunity that's laid out in front of you, and it's up to you to step forward into that. And yeah, I feel like that's really probably the core of what I wanted to say. I was thinking, is there any more there? No. So what I'm saying is self-awareness really is the key to everything. So if you can tune into, what are your strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities, what are your values, and you keep coming back to that, then when you feel like something's changing or shifting, it's using that knowing to upgrade you into the next space, and appreciating that when the old memories come up, you can look back to learn from them. But ultimately, you're going to take that data and you're going to apply it with the new upgraded data, the new upgraded software. So then you can ultimately upgrade into your next timeline, reality, opportunity, whatever you want to call it. So everything is always constantly evolving and moving, with whether you're present for it or not, right? Like whether you're aware of this or not, life is happening, moving, and evolving. And it really is about you tuning into you all of the time, because you are the creator of your reality. No one else is doing that for you. But if you're allowing other people to do it for you, then that's hindering your growth, right? And ultimately, we want to grow, we want to evolve. Like I always talk about our strength and our confidence being a mighty oak tree. That tree continues to grow up and grow its roots down. It's always growing, always evolving. Maybe more branches grow up, it gets wider. There's so many layers to this. And actually, in human form, you're not a tree. You can actually physically move too, right? So I'm just saying this to say that you got to get out of your own way sometimes, right? Don't let the past hold you back, and don't let the future scare you. Take what you've learned, apply it to who you are now, and trust that you will handle whatever comes your way. So, yes, I'm going to leave it there. I'm sending you lots of love. And as always, please do drop me a DM if you need my guidance and support. I am now offering one-to-one spaces for 6 months or 12 months for the woman that is ready to do this work. If you're listening, always thinking, gosh, I really need to do that, or I really feel that, or I'm in that space right now, I'm speaking to you, especially if you're a woman that has her own business or is in a managerial position, or, a leader of some sorts. You especially need to tune into this, and every woman needs access to some form of this. But the woman that I'm speaking to is the woman that is outwardly successful. She's outwardly doing all the things that she was supposed to do in her life, and still feels like something isn't right. And for me, that really is about us reconnecting every part of you, so you do feel deeply fulfilled on every level. And for the women that aren't in that position but know they need to do this work, I do have my self-study available. With the link is below, and that is literally 6 videos. You get the journal included with that, but literally all of the topics I speak on broken down for you to understand and work out and apply for yourself. And I'm there to answer questions about that as well. But it's self-led, you can do it in your own time, and you get lifetime access. So yeah, really great opportunity for you to do the work. And yeah, I'm sending you so much love, and I will speak to you soon. Lots of love.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow, and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming